that Professor Vedinathan is with us, in spite of, I think he has no old age problems. He is not old age, he is very young. He is very young and very, by mind and even by physically, he is seen fit. And now I am happy that even in this stage that we could get Professor Vedinathan in our midst, to have to we are really fortunate to hear the philosophy of Narayaniyam from the very horse mouth. With these observations, I beg to remain. Sandrananda avabodhatmakam anupamitam kaladesha avadibhyam nirmukram nityamukram nigamashata sahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavat bhadi sakshat guru pavanapure handa bhagyam jananam. Now I request Professor Vedinathan ji to open his lecture.
With reverential salutations to all, were I to express my grateful thanks to my esteemed friend Dr. Murali Madhavan for his kindness in having asked me to participate in Dr. Kunjini Raja's birth centenary celebration and to deliver a lecture in commemoration of him. I think I will become somewhat tedious or tiresome. Hence, please permit me to begin with a plain thank you. Friends, I have had the good fortune of being associated with Dr. Raja for over a period of 4 or 5 decades. He was kind enough to appoint me as reader in the Department of Sanskrit, University of Madras, in 1975, and as professor and head in the year 1980. I am a grateful recipient of his graciousness, and I shall treasure it up in my heart forever. We in the Department of Sanskrit, University of Madras, had the good fortune of presenting a volume, commemoration volume, to mark his 61st birthday in the year 1980. The volume was titled Rajasudha, and this elegant title was suggested by Professor C.S. Radhakrishnan, to whom I am always grateful. My very good friend, Dr. C.L. Ramakrishnan, a earnest student of Advaita Vedanta and a former Director General of Police, told me that Sri Ravindran, his predecessor, was the son of Dr. Kundan Raja, the uncle of Dr. Raja, Kunjini Raja, told him that he and Kunjini Raja were classmates, and all our friends used to call Kunjini Raja affectionately and reverentially as Midukkan Tamburan. This expression characterizing Dr. Raja is most opportunely, tellingly, gracefully, and singularly felicitous, as Dr. Raja was each inch a king and was a person of a conspicuously high character. There was a natural aura of aristocracy around him. Aristocracy born not only out of riches, but also out of possession of outstanding moral excellences such as rectitude, justice, integrity, and an uncompromising adherence to high moral principles. He was incapable of any ignoble thoughts. He was a person of innate gentleness, instinctive politeness, and kingly courtesy. He was modest in the sense that he took no credit to himself for what he did, and there was total absence of boastfulness or show of conceit in him. He was a professor of good education and learning of an excellent understanding and an exact taste. He had a mastery in detail of his chosen field of study, and he exhibited such qualities as accuracy and skill in carrying out research intended to extend knowledge in that field. In his writings, he strictly follows the maxim of Mallinatha that one should not state anything that is not based on authority, nor should one engage oneself in furnishing more details than required. All his writings are characterized by meticulous scholarship and appropriate style. He has reconciled clarity and cogency with brevity in his writings. The world of scholars has ardently paid homage to his monumental works. Superbly researched and exquisitely executed, the works are Kerala's contribution to Sanskrit literature and Indian theories of meaning. By his strict adherence to moral principles such as truthfulness, candor, sincerity, fairness, and the like, he won the admiration of all. His personality was majestic without severity and impressive without showiness. He was so elevated and exalted that I could feel only a part of the vastness of his knowledge, nobility, and the like. There is a great saying in Sanskrit, Eka eva satam doshaha, yen mriyeran kuchit kale chirakala ushitaha abhi. Great men cannot commit only one mistake during their lifetime, and that is they pass away one day, although they lived long. Dr. Kunjini Raja had committed, this is the only mistake Dr. Raja had committed during his lifetime. Now he belongs to mankind. Adopting the phraseology of Shakespeare, it may be said his life was gentle and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man. My good friend Dr. C.L. Ramakrishnan suggested you add one more sentence, sir. Then comes another alike. We do not know. As Henry Wordsworth Longfellow, the American poet, has said, lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing they leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. This is especially true in the case of Dr. Kunjini Raja. The great lesson I have learned from him is nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of our mind. I offer my respectful homage to the sacred memory of my illustrious professor, and I conclude this account by citing the splendid lines of Kalidasa, Mahimanam edukirtya tavasam hriyate vachaha shramayana tadashakyava na gunanam yatya. Now, the subject of my talk is the philosophy of Advaita in the Sriman Narayaniya. Sriman Narayaniya by Melpattu Sri Narayana Bhatta is a brilliant compendium of Srimad Bhagavata in 1034 verses, divided into 100 sections called Dashakas. It is in adoration of the Lord of Guru Purnamura. A detailed account of the identity, date, and works of Sri Narayana Bhatta has been given by my esteemed professor Dr. Kunjini Raja in his monumental work, The Contribution of Kerala to Sanskrit Literature. The central philosophy of the Srimad Bhagavata is Advaita. This is explicitly stated in the 12th skandha as follows. Sarva Vedanta Saramyate Brahmatmaikatva Lakshanam Vastu Advitiyam Tannishtam Kaivallika Prayojanam. Very freely translated, it comes to this. It's a subject. The essence of Vedanta is reality, the one without a second. That is the identity of Brahman, the true nature of Ishvara, and Atman, the true nature of the Jiva. And its aim is liberation from transmigratory existence. Sir, friends, the term Advaita belongs to a class of compounds in which component members designate something else. Accordingly, the term means that wherein there is absence of duality. That is, na vidyate dvaitam yatra. The word dvaita signifies the state of being manifold, and which, when applied to the world, it suggests both numerousness and diversity in its forms, features, qualities, characters, and aspects. The negative particle nanya negates the existence of Dvaita or duality. In order that the word Advaita should not be understood as merely signifying the absence of duality, na vidyate Dvaitam, it is taken to refer to the substratal reality wherein there is the absence of duality. It follows that the word Advaita stands for the principle which is the absolute opposite of duality. Yajnavalkya, when asked by Gargi to describe the substratum wherein Akasha, that is Avidya, is located, answered that it is Akshara, or the immutable entity, and it is neither grass, nor sthulam, nor minute, ananu, etc. Madhusudana Saraswati, in his work Advaita Ratana Rakshana, states that the words Astulam, Ananu, etc. must be taken in the sense of that where there is the absence of gross object, minute object, etc. These two words do not merely convey the absence of grossness, etc., but point to the substratum of their absence. And that substratum is the self, Brahman, which is Advaita, that is, which is free from all phenomenal elements comprising the world. The text presents the reality as the substratum of the absolute non-existence of diversity in all its forms, and thereby suggests that it is like nothing and unlike everything. In sum, and it is free from internal differences. In sum, the word Advaita means Brahman, which is the logical significance of the Upanishads. And the texts that deal with the nature of this self are figuratively spoken of as Advaita Vedanta. This view of the Upanishads that the self remains as the substratum of the negation of everything else is referred to in the hymn of the Atharva Veda when it extols the remnants of the sacrificial food by comparing them to the self which remains as the substratum of the negation of every form of duality. The hymn is as follows: Uchchishte Namarupam Cha Uchchishte Loka Ahitaha Uchchishte Indrasya Agnischa Vishwamantaha Samahitam. The sub-object consisting of names and forms are superimposed upon the Uchchishta, that is the self, which remains as the substratum of the negation of duality. In the Uchchishta, earth, etc. are falsely presented. It is in this Uchchishta, Indra, the Lord of the heaven, and Agni, and the Lord of the earth, are illusorily presented. In factual reality, the whole universe is falsely identified with it. Further, the self that is Brahman is not primarily signified by the words of the Upanishads. For in order that a sense may be conveyed through primary signification, what is necessary is that it must possess a genus, jati, or activity, kriya, or quality, guna, or relation, sambandha. Brahman, being attributeless and supra-relational, does not possess any of these factors. Hence, the words of the Upanishads cannot convey the self through primary signification, that is Abhidhavritti. It is in this sense that Taittiriya Upanishadic text, Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasa Saha, must be understood. But the self is conveyed through secondary signification, Lakshana Vritti, and it is in this sense the Brihadaranyaka text, Tam Tva Upanishadam Purusham Prachami. O Shandilya, I ask you about the self which could be known only through the Upanishads, must be understood. See the following, Sriman Narayana Bhatta, in the following verse, summarizes the whole view, summarizes the above view. No Tiryancham Namatyam, Nachasuram Asuram, Nastriyam Nopumamsam, Na Dravyam, Karma, Jatim, Gunamabi, Sadasadvabite, Rupumahu. Shishtam. He specifically uses the word Shishtam, that is Uchchishta. Yat syat nishede sati, then nigamashataihi lakshanavrittitaha tad krichrena avidyamanam. That is Paramasukamayam, it is absolute bliss. Bhavati Tasmai Namaste. It is in 98 in the Shaka. Now, following according to the Upanishads, the self is real, consciousness and infinite. It is free from any activity. It is self-luminous, ever-released, immutable. And it is not conditioned by time, space and objects. And it is uncaused. It is free from any real relation to avidya. It is being meditated upon by sages who are totally detached from material concerns. It is bliss, pure and simple. The following verse of the Srimad Narayaniya records this view of the Upanishads. Satyam Shuddham Vibhuttam, Tavavapur Nityamuktam Niriham, Nirdvandvam Nirvigaram, Nikila Guna Gana Vyanjana Adhara Bhutam, Nirmulam, Nirmalam, Tan Niravadi Mahimollasi Nirlinam Antas Nisranganam Munenam, Nirupama Paramananda Sandra Prakasham. It is self-luminous consciousness, self-luminous bliss, absolute, unconditioned. Now, so far, the nature of the self, according to the Upanishads, which is recorded by, which is restated by Sri Narayana Bhatta in the Narayaniya. Now, the self and Maya Avidya. Avidya, identical with the Maya, is the power present in the self. The text of the Shvetashvatra Upanishad, Te Jnana Yoga Anugataha Apashyan Devatma Shaktim Sagunen Nigodham. That is, the sages absorbed in meditation discovered the power which is present in the self-luminous consciousness and which is inextricably blended with the three strands of Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. It is said above, in the above text, that avidya is present in the self. The relation between the two cannot be real, for the self is sentient and the latter insentient. The cause of the relation is avidya itself. Avidya, thus falsely related to the self, acquires a twofold power of veiling Avarana Shakti and of revealing Vikshepa Shakti. By the former power, it veils the non-dual aspect of the self, thereby giving rise to the experience and the corresponding expression, the self as non-dual bliss is not manifest to me. But by the latter one, it illusorily presents the self as Ishvara, God, the Jiva, the individual soul, and the world. The Vikshepa phase of avidya gets itself transformed into the gross elements of earth, etc., and into the psychical apparatus. From the gross elements arise the world farther and farther above, and farther below, and also the gross bodies of man and beast, birds and reptiles, brambles and trees, and lice and mosquitoes. The psychical aspect apparatus consists of 17 factors, namely the 5 senses of knowledge, the 5 senses of action, the 5 vital airs, and the internal organ in its twofold aspect as the intellect and the mind. These constitute what is known as the subtle body, Sukshma Sharira, which is the permanent annex of the Jiva self till it attains liberation. It may be added here that the mind is the most predominant factor in this psychical apparatus. Avidya, the world projected by avidya or Maya, is indeterminable either as real or an absolute nothing, Sat or Asat. If the world projected by it is non-real or illusory, like a serpent that appears in a robe. Sri Narayana Bhatta states, Satvena asattayava nakalu sadasatvena nirvachya rupa. Dhatte ya aso avidya guna pani madhivate vishwadrishyava vasa. And friends, the text of the Aitareya and the Chandogya Upanishad state that prior to creation, that is during the period of dissolution, what existed is only the self identified with the world in its latent form. The world could be present in avidya only as it is its primal cause. So when it is said that the self alone identified with the world existed prior to the creation, it must be understood that the self alone existed by being associated with avidya, wherein the world remains in a latent form. This view of the Upanishad prefigures in the hymn of the Rig Veda. The Upanishadic text of Atmava idamekeva agre asi, Aitareya Upanishad. Sadeva Saumi idamagra asi, Chandogya Upanishad. This view of the Upanishad prefigures in the hymn of the Rig Veda. And the hymns are Namrityurasi Amritam Natarihi, Naratriya Annahasi Praketaha, Anid Avatam Swadhaya Tadekam, Tasmat Ha Anyate Naparankinchana Asa. Swada means avidya or maya. This means before the creation of the world, there existed neither the Lord of death nor the nectar of the divine beings. There did not exist the sun and the moon, the marks of day and night. There existed only that one, Tadekam, which is free from any activity and is associated with Swadha, that is avidya or maya. Nothing existed apart from it. These hymns occurs in the Taittiriya Brahmana too. Compare Narayaniya text, Vyakta Vyaktamidam Nakinchid Abhavate Prakrita Pakshaye. Mayayam Gunasamya Ruddha Vigrito Tvai Agatayam Layam. No Mrityuscha Tada Amrutamcha Samabhut Nanho Naratriya Stitihi. Tatra Yekaha Tom Ashishyata Kila Paramananda Prakashatma. This is Sriman Narayana. That the Shruti text explains now so far the self and avidya or maya. And Narayana Bhatta has clearly stated the relation of maya or avidya to Ishwar, to the self. Now, being associated with this avidya, the self appears as Ishvara, Jiva, and the world. Now, the Shruti text explains the nature of the Jiva and the analogy of a reflected image, Pratibimba. The Brahmabindu Upanishad or Amritabindu Upanishad states, the self of all the things is verily one. It is immanent in each and every being. And thus it appears to be one as Ishvara and many as the Jivas. This is similar to the moon, which although one appears to be many in water contained in various receptacles. On the basis of this and other similar texts, the Advaita maintains that the self, which is pure and simple, attributeless, and which is consciousness, gets itself reflected in avidya and the mind. The reflected image is known as the Jiva. The Jiva, in other words, is the self associated with the characteristic of being a reflected image, Pratibimbatva, Vishikta Chaitanya. The consciousness element in the blend is termed Atman, and it is real. While the characteristic of being a reflected image, Pratibimbatva, is non-real. In relation to the reflecting media and the reflected image, the self acquires the adventitious feature known as original or bimba. As associated with this feature, the self is known as Ishvara. Ishvara thus is the self associated with the characteristic of being the original Bimbattva Vishikta Chaitanya. Thus we have three: pure Chaitanya, Bimbattva Vishikta Chaitanya, that is Ishvara, Pratibimbattva Vishikta Chaitanya, that is Jiva. As associated with this feature, the self is known as Ishvara. Ishvara thus is the self associated with the characteristic of being the original Bimbattva Vishikta Chaitanya. The consciousness element in that blend is designated as Brahman and it is real, while the feature of being the original is non-real. It comes to this, that the essential nature of both Ishvara and Jiva is the self, which is real. It is only the states of being Ishvara, Ishvaratva, and of being the Jiva, Jivatva, that are illusorily superimposed upon the self, that is not real. Ishvara being the self that serves as the original Bimba, is not overpowered by Maya or Avidya, his limiting adjunct. The characteristics of a revealing medium will be presented only in the reflected image, Pratibimba, and not in the original Bimba. Ishvara thus is not affected by Avidya or Maya. On the other hand, he controls it. Of the two powers that characterize Avidya, namely the Avarana Shakti and the Vikshepa Shakti, the Avarana Shakti is inactive in his case. And the Vikshepa Shakti, his essential nature, namely the self, is never concealed from him. He is ever aware of his identity with it. And so he is ever released Nitya Mukta. The Vikshepa Shakti, however, is operative. Consequently, the world of variety appears to him, but he at the same time realizes that it is nothing more than an apparent diversification within himself. The Jiva, on the other hand, being the reflected image, is overpowered by the characteristic of the revealing medium. And overpowered by Avidya and the mind. He has lost sight of his identity with the self, sees through the veil of Avidya, the phenomenal world of individuality and multiplicity, takes it to be real, performs deeds, righteous and unrighteous, and experiences their fruits by undergoing unending cycle of births and deaths. It can hope to find permanent freedom from this suffering only in the utter extinct of Avidya, and it is possible only through self-realization. Compare Narayaniya text. Maya sannihitaha apravishta babusha sakshi iti gito bhavan vedaistam pratibimbitaha vivasivan jivo vinaiva varaha kaladi pratibodita ata bhavata sanchodita cha swayam Maya Sakala Buddhi Tattva Madajate Yoso Mahan Uchyate. In the commentary, Krishnavarya states, Maya Nama Vikshepa Shakti Pradhana Ishwarobadhi. Vikshepa Shakti is operative in the case of Ishwara, and that Vikshepa Shakti is known as Maya. And Yaya Ishwaraha Srishyadi Karoti. Avidya Nama Avarana Shakti Pradhana Jivobadhi. Avidya means it is the limiting adjunct of Jiva. Yaya Ishvaraha Sannavi Jivaha Tatkrita Ubadi Bedena Samsari Bhavati becomes a transmigratory being. Then in another verse is Narayana Bhatta says, Avritya Tatsurubam Kshiti Jala Marudatmana Vikshipanti. Avritya Vikshipanti means the Avarana Shakti is operative, Vikshepa Shakti is operative. Jivan Bhuishta Karmavali Vivasagatin Dukkha Jale Kshipanti. So all the jivas are being undergoing transmigration. The self that serves as the Bimba Chaitanya, that is Ishvara, is the material and the efficient cause of the world. He is the material cause in the sense that the consciousness element in him is a substratum of Avidya, whose transformation is the world. He is the efficient cause in the sense that the consciousness element in him comes to be associated with the characteristic of having the knowledge of the world to be created, jnana, the desire and resolve to create the world, ichcha, and of putting the resolve into effect, kriti. These characteristics are only the manifestations or the modes of avidya. It must be noted here that the past merits and demerits of the jivas, which abide in avidya in a latent form, serve as the cause for the rise of desire on the part of Ishvara to create the world. The following hymns of the Rigveda set forth the above view. Tamasi, tamasa gudam agre praketam salilam sarvama idam, tuchena abu avihitam, yadasi tavasaha tan mahimna ajayata yekam. Compare Narayaniyam, Mayayam bimbikastvam. Ishvara is Bimba Chaitanya. Srijati Mahadahankara Tanmatra Bedehi Buddha Gramendriyaderavi Sakala Jagate Sopna Sankalpa Kalpam Bhuya Samkritya Sarvam Kamataiva Vadan Atmana Kala Shaktya Gambire Jayamani Tamasi Vidimiro Baditatmai Namaste. Now that is Nirvyaparovi 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 Nishkaranam Aja Bajase Yakriyam Ikshanakyam Teneva Udeti Teneva Udeti Lina Prakriti Asati Kalpadika. So far, that is God, soul, and the world are the seeming diversifications of the fourth entity, transcendental entity, that is Brahman, and through Avidya or Maya. This is the doctrinal side of Advaita. I conclude. About liberation, self and liberation. One, I will say this much: the jiva falsely identifying itself with the body-mind complex has lost sight of its identity with its true nature, the self. It must get itself detached from its relation to the mind, the relation caused by avidya. And avidya could be removed by the direct knowledge of the true nature of the jiva as a self or Brahman. To achieve this, the jiva must first rise above the life of sensual impulse and act as a moral being. It must cultivate the will to turn the mind toward righteous thoughts when it is troubled by the sinful ones. Attaining betterment of character or cleansing of the heart by the performance of moral deeds prescribed in the Vedas without any selfish end in view, and by pursuing Vedantic study, Shravana, reflection, Manana, and meditation Vidyasana, it would attain the realization of its true nature as the self. The jiva would become free from avidya and also from its relation to the mind. Such a jivan would continue to live in the body till the merits and the demerits that have created the body, by being present in which he has attained self-realization, are exhausted. He is known as a jivan mukta. His life has two phases. It is either samadhi, or when he turns inwards and loses himself in the self, or the condition known as vittana, or reversion to empirical life. In this state, he would give expression to his mystic experience. Being the substantive principle of the whole world, he would feel the presence of every being. See, Narayana Bhatta deals with the state of Jivan Mukti in the last sections of the Sriman Narayaniya. The means to self-realization, it is that is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana are prescribed. But for most people, it is difficult. For them, bhakti or loving devotion to personal God is introduced. Vasudeva, in the Srimad Bhagavata, it is said, Krishna, who is he? Lord Krishna is Krishnamenam avehitvam atmanam ahilatmanam jagadhitaya sopyatra dehi eva abhati maya. And dehi eva abhati maya. And our Narayana Bhatta says, Sandranandava bodhatmakam. Who is Lord Guru Ayappan? Sandrananda avabodhatmakam. It is pure, it is bliss. Sandra Ananda is bliss and consciousness, pure and simple. Sandra Ananda avabodhatmakam. Anupamitam, he is like nothing and unlike everything. Anupamitam. Kala Deshavadibhyam Nirmuktam. He is not conditioned by either time or space. Nityamuktam, ever released. Shrutisada, Nigamashada Sadai, Nityamuktam, Sandrananda, Bodhatmakam, Anuvamidam, Kaladeshavadhyam, Nirmuktam, Nityamuktam, Nigamashada Sahasrai, Nibbasyamanam, Aspashtam. That is, it is not primarily signified by the Upanishads. but only secondarily as neti neti. This Nigamashadasastri Nibhasyamanam Aspashtam. Dristamatre punar Urupurushartatmakam Brahmatattvam. The moment it is realized, then it is not valuable, but it is value itself. It is the highest Purushartha value itself. Moksha. Tattavad Bhati Sakshat Guru Paurapure Hantabhagyam Jana. Oh, the fortune of the people, that is, that self itself appears in the form of Lord of Guru Paurapure. And its body consists of the pure Sattva Guna of Maya or Avidya. And this bhakti or loving devotion to this Sakara Brahman, that is Brahman or the self associated with the bodily frame, leads to the concentration of mind. And finally, it gives rise to, as God Himself promises in the Bhagavad Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam Yena Mamupayanti. That is, easily they get the direct self-realization, knowledge of the self. This is the import of the last verse, the verse in the last section. Yogindranam Todangeshu Adhika Sumadaram Muktibajam Nivaso Bhaktanam Kamavarshadhyudarisaliam Nadate Padamulam Nityam Chittastidam Me Pavanapurapade Krishna Karunya Sindhu Kritva Nisheshadavan Pradishitu Paramananda Sandoha Lakshmi. Let it give us supreme bliss, unconditioned bliss, uncircumcised bliss. This is the teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, Narayaniya. The role of bhakti on the practical side, as dealt with in here, it is a topic for another webinar. And offering my reverential salutations, respectful obeisance to Lord Guru Pavanapura, Lord of Guru Pavanapura. I conclude this lecture. I offer my grateful thanks to Murali Madhavan. I offer my homage to the sacred memory of the illustrious Professor Dr. Raja. Thank you very much for the patience. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Vijayanathanji. You have wonderfully done. You are a mastermind, and you have done like Malpatur Narayana Bhatta. Malpatur Narayana Bhatta, the entire Sundara Kanda from Ramayana, he abridged half of a verse. Todvarta Agarna Nodyat Geru Durujava Sambadi Sambadi Vakya Protirna Arnodhir Andar Nagari Janagajam Vikshya Dektu Anguliyam. The entire Sundarakanda portion has been given. So, like that, you have the is just like a ocean. The Narayaniya, the philosophy in Narayaniya, it is a great, and you have just like the what we call the Agastya Maharshi, you have taken the entire thing in your hand. And you have done it, and it is so beautiful, as I know that your oration is so authentic, and we cannot express. There is yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. This is the experience when we hear you, and it was so beautiful. Malpatur Narayana Bhatta, in his second dashaka in Bhagavad Rupa Varnana, Surya Spardhirena Murdhudalaga Prodbhasi Bhalandaram, in the third verse, he Vengya Maryadaya Kavyasya Sausthavam Saundaryam Avi Tatra Sujayati Yet Trailokya Mahiyasopi Mahidam Sammohanam Mohanat Kandam Kandi Nidhanatopi Madhuram Madhurya Dhuryadapi Saundaryottaradopi Sundaradaram Todruvam Ascharyado Pyascharyam Bhuvane Kasya Kutukam Pushnadi Vishnu Vibho. So this is really depicting the entire Alaukika Saundarya of Sri Krishna, but at the same time it also suggests the inner meaning that my Kavya is so beautiful like him. So this is Kavya Kadaksha. This is a Kavya Kadaksha. Likewise, why I quoted this verse, this is fully applicable to your oral presentation also. So I am very highly indebted in spite of several occupations. Even though in Corona period also you are fully engaged in academic works. I know your breathe. Actually it is Swasochvasa for you, the academic activity.
I am 84 years young.
That is, in the beginning I told Professor Srinathan is a child of 84 years. So we are very happy that we can see you even now in this way and responding very reasonably with a scholarly background. And we are very happy. And Professor Kunjumni Raja was always speaking about you with high esteem. And he never speaks something Vyaja. He is Raja, he is not Vyaja. So
he is incapable of any ignoble thoughts.
That is, you have mentioned in your beginning of the speech. So you are the right person to deliver this Shatabdi Smaraka Prabhashanam of Raja.
I may add, sir, that I am translating Ganga Tarangani of Mandita Kunji Nambudri.
Now you are doing?
Slowly, because I am incurably lazy, you know.
No. You see, so Ganga Tarangani, yes.
I will complete it and it will be dedicated to Dr. Raja.
Yeah, Ganga Tarangani, I know he is Mandita Kunji Nambudri, a great poet and a great Nayayiga. He was teacher of my father.
Yes, yes.
Pandirajan Achupuduval, Ramavariyar. All these great stalwarts, Pandit Rajas, they are a student of Mandita Kunju Nambudri. And he wrote Najarat Namaliga, the great Grodabatra text in Navyanyaya. So I know Mandita Kunju, and my PhD thesis in Mandita Kunju Nambudri.
Yes.
His Chataka Sandesha. And
Sadasa Ramurma Parikshit Tamuran.
So many stories have to be told. If you open that chapter, it is so many things. There is a golden era, sir. It is a golden era of Shastras and Kavyas. Yeah. And Mandita Kunju Nambudri in poem also, in Kavya also, he is equally good as you compare with Shastra. His contribution in two fields, both fields, Shastra and Sahitya, is equal. So both Sabyasachi.
As you have told yesterday,
yes.
Sahitye Sukumara Vastuni Dridanyaya Graha Pirandile Tarkeva Samvidati Sumum Leelayate
Bharat. So I have little twisted it and put about Mandita like this. I have written Shastre Vistrada Yukri Jala Jadile Saundarya Saralmage Sahityecha Tamam Vihara Chatura Pratnya Tavanya Drishi. So in that way it has put. So we are highly indebted to you, sir. Now the time is coming 3:30. So we have to close this session and we have to the another 2 sessions more. So with your
before
blessing.
That, I would like to add only one sentence. Praya Pratyamadatte Suguneshu Uttamadaraha. That is, when favored by great people, one gets serene self-confidence. I get serene self-confidence because I have been favored by you people. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Vayam Adhavarnaha. Samichinam. Now we are closing this session and moving to the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening.